In case you're just joining us, or in case you just have a really bad memory, Darian DeVries, the new head basketball coach at Indiana. The school made the announcement late yesterday. They introduced him earlier today. DeVries coming from West Virginia, where he spent one season. Prior to that, he revitalized the program at Drake. And Darian DeVries, as promised, is today's big interview. Coach, thanks for joining us. I know it's a busy day. I want to talk to you first about the decision to leave West Virginia and to head to Indiana. Leaving a program quickly is not really your style. I mentioned 6 years at Drake. Before that, you spent 20 years at Creighton, including 17 on the staff there as an assistant coach and then 3 in other positions. So what made this a job where you kind of changed who you've been historically and said, I got to leave quickly and get that job?
Yeah, I think when you think about Indiana, it's one of those dream jobs that, if you have the opportunity to be the head coach at Indiana University, you have to take it. And, I think, for me and my family, like it's a great fit for us as well, as was West Virginia. But this is one of those once in a lifetime opportunities to be the head coach here.
You spent your entire life in the Midwest up until last year, really just in Iowa and Nebraska, right? You're in Iowa, and then you cross the river into Omaha, and as I mentioned, spent 20 years there at Creighton. So you understand the Big Ten, even if you haven't been a part of the Big Ten, obviously brothers who were Big Ten football players, and so none of this is new to you. But give me a sense of kind of your take on Big Ten basketball and what this region in this area of the country mean to you.
Yeah, great basketball league. Everybody knows that. Great conference overall. And you think about Big Ten basketball, it's big, it's physical, it's well coached. There's great players, and then it's just from top to bottom, just one of the best leagues, if not the best league in the country.
Well, anyone who's from the Midwest, as you are, knows the expectations at Indiana, and anyone who follows college basketball knows they haven't really lived up to those expectations consistently in quite a while. What do you believe the formula is for getting IU into the spot where the fan base, where the alums, where everyone who follows the sport wants it to be?
Yeah, the number one thing, it comes down to staff and then recruiting and retention and making sure that the people you have in your locker room are about the right things and committed to the things it takes to win. And then I think you can't deviate from what those are. You got to stay true to the things you believe in and the process of getting there. And if you do that, those wins and losses will follow, based on how well you do those things.
You mentioned sticking to the things you believe in. What do you believe in?
Yeah, I think you got to have a great locker room. The players that are going to come play for you, they got to want to be there for the right reasons. You got to, in today's era, with the portal, you got to make sure that you're building a team and not just a collection of individual players that don't fit well together. And that's our thing as we begin to assemble a staff and a team is let's put together guys that complement each other, that they can play well together. They're self-motivated. They're hungry to not only get better as individuals, but hungry to succeed and play at the highest level.
You said something that was really interesting that resonated with me in your news conference. You said you're not building a collection of players, you are building a team. And I just think it's challenging. I mean, I've talked to so many coaches about this. We were mentioning this just yesterday, kind of this notion that it's almost speed dating now, and that it is harder to figure out kind of what's at the fabric of a young person. What do they believe in? How important is it to them to be a part of the team versus some of the other stuff that might factor into recruitment? You did a really nice job of that at West Virginia last year. And so how did you approach that? How do you get to know players in that shorter period of time and figure out what's motivating them?
Yeah, I think it always helps when you have relationships from your staff, maybe, they had recruited them previously, or they know their high school coach or club coach, whatever it may be, so that you already have kind of some built-in information. But then you got to do your homework, and in a short period of time, make as many connections as you can. Trust your gut and your instincts a little bit. After doing this for a long time, you get a pretty good feel for kids and what they're about and the type of questions they ask and how they interact with people. And those things all matter, I think, when you're trying to put a team together, is making sure that those things all align with what's important to you.
It's interesting to me to always look to mentors to try to get a sense for someone, and you had two great ones at Creighton, Dana Altman and Greg McDermott. Dana, obviously, in the Big Ten now. You played for Eldon Miller, who old school Big Ten fans know was a fabulous coach at Ohio State in this league. So you've had a few. Give me a sense of what you took from each one of those guys and maybe any others along the way.
Yeah, you mentioned three great ones. I actually got a text from Coach Miller last night congratulating me, and got an opportunity to play for him in college at Northern Iowa, and I think he taught a lot, not just basketball, but everything outside of basketball as well, and made everything a priority, that was important to him. And then you mentioned two of the best in Dana Altman and Greg McDermott. What they've done, in their careers, and the consistency at what they've done it and the way they've gone about it. It's just so impressive, and I'm so fortunate to have been under both of those guys and learned so much from them and the staffs that they had underneath them.
You mentioned consistency being a tenet for each one of those guys. Stylistically, philosophically, are there particular things that you took from each one of them, whether it's about playing on the court or whether it's about building the program?
Yeah, they're both a little bit different in the way they go about it, what they stress, maybe offensively or defensively. But I think just the way they show up every day and the way they treat their team and the way they approach practice from a consistent level of making sure you're never too high, never too low, and making sure you're always making progress as that season goes on. And I just love the way they both do it in their own unique styles. And I've taken what I could from them as much as possible and try to apply it to my own personality and in the way we want to do things.
You touched on this a little bit in your news conference. You said offensively you'd love to get a shot up in 12 seconds. It's interesting looking back kind of stylistically on your teams and trying to piece together your career. I mean, you've had some teams that have played pretty quickly. You've had some teams that have played at slower and more deliberate paces as well. You've had teams that were better on offense than defense. You've had teams that were better on defense than offense, which I always think is the tenet of a great coach, right? That you tend to adapt to whatever it is your roster is in a given year. Above and beyond that, hey, in an ideal world, we'd love to shoot in 12 seconds. Like, what do you want this to be when you've got your program humming 2-3 years from now, that it's exactly the group that you want to have there and you've been able to kind of put your blueprint on it? What does it look like? What will IU basketball look like?
Yeah, offensively, I'd love to get out and run and play in transition, trying to, take advantage of every opportunity we can against a broken floor. It's so much easier to score against a non-set defense and then get the ball popping and it's going side to side and you're shooting threes and getting paint touches. And then defensively, just being physical and tough and really playing with a lot of kind of urgency and on that end of the floor. And we want to be the aggressor. And I think ultimately, aggressiveness gets rewarded, toughness gets rewarded, and we want to be able to do that at both the defense and the offensive end.
Coach, I'm going to leave you with this. You do not need me to tell you this, and you addressed this a little bit in your news conference today, but basketball matters deeply to the people of Indiana. It is in the fiber of their being, and there has been a lot of frustration about where Indiana basketball has been, with a few notable exceptions and a couple of years where it's been pretty good, but largely here over the last couple decades, it just hasn't been the program that Hoosier fans want it to be. So what is your message to the fan base at Indiana about what they should expect?
Yeah, for us, we're going to work, and that's what I can promise is we're going to come in, we're going to work our tails off. Our staff is, we're going to put together what we feel is a great combination of players that are motivated to get us to that highest level possible. They want to commit to each other, the team getting better. They're self-motivated, and then when we get that, and you get a collection of guys in a locker room and a staff that's putting the effort that we're going to put in, we're hoping those wins and losses come out on the plus side for us more nights than not.
Darian DeVries, congratulations on this job. We are thrilled to have you in the Big Ten and look forward to see what Hoosier basketball looks like here in the immediate term and of course, in the long term as well. Thanks, Coach, and good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So that is Darian DeVries, the new IU coach. How about some of the guys he'll be tangling with? Tom Izzo and one of his mentors that we just talked about, Dana Altman. They get things going in the NCAA tournament on Friday. We'll run through their games as we continue here on Big Ten Today.